morning.
Good morning.
You look like more than 150 people. I'm very happy to be home today, traveling around the state, spending a lot of time in Columbus. It's nice to come home, except there is some scripture or old proverb that says no one is a prophet in their hometown. So maybe this speech goes over better when I'm 50 miles away, right? That's the definition of an expert. Everybody lives 50 miles away. Well, I live just down the road in Fairlawn Heights. But I really am happy to be here. You know, this is not my first presentation. I speak all around the state about the budget, local government funding issues, shared services collaboration. Basically, my job is to go around the state and tell local leaders, local officials in schools and government that they have to change. In a rapidly changing world, they have to change more. And you can bet that goes over real well. I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee that has bales of chicken wire in the back. Does anybody remember the movie The Blues Brothers? For those of you who don't remember the Blues Brothers, let me recount it for you. The Blues Brothers, Jake and Elwood Blues, get a band together, and they're a blues band. They have to raise money to save an orphanage, and to do that, they decide they're going to do a big concert, but they need to get some money up front, so they go to a country western bar as their first gig, but they only know blues music, so they start one of their favorite songs. As they walk up to the stage, it's protected by chicken wire, framed behind wood. They start their song, and the crowd hates it. They just start whipping beer bottles at it, and it's bouncing and breaking off the chicken wire and everything. They decide they've got to change their song, so what do they say? You know, what do we know? What do we know? Oh, Rawhide. They start playing the theme from the old TV show Rawhide. They start playing it. The crowd loves it. What do the crowd do when they love the song? They throw more beer bottles. Welcome to my world. We'll try to have a little fun with this. You know, the change we're going through is a big deal. And it's excited. Thank you, Jason, for the introduction, but thank you more for your remarks. You know, I would classify it as we can be public employees or we can be public servants, right? We can be bureaucrats or we can be public entrepreneurs. And those are very big, small word changes, huge cultural changes. And I think Jason has that kind of vision, and I just tweeted, the combination of the vision and pragmatic approach to make that kind of change. And I think what we're trying to do is get all of us to that same point. And I think we are much better doing that together than we are individually in our organizations or individually in our role as leaders. I do not read slides very much. So, just so you know, I may talk, you should read. Because when I start reading these slides, the presentation just nosedives. I heard we're being videoed for YouTube. That scares me a little. Is there any media in the room? Okay, so I got half that covered, the other half still scares me. Shared services, it's working together. Staff, equipment, facilities, all of you share something already. I'm not here to tell you that we just created shared services down in Columbus. That's not it. Shared services has been happening for decades. What I am here to tell you is that people are doing it at a greater and greater pace in more areas of their operation, and we will never be done. Shared services isn't a project. It is a cultural change. It is how we need to do things, and it's not going away. So, being a good government geek, I was asked to look at government and look at what sharing services is and what the potential is. So I would just like to connect the dots a little bit and frame the issue. This is government in the state of Ohio. Jason, I'll make sure that you guys have this electronically. Send it to anyone you've got an email for or anything else. When the state of Ohio was created in 1803, this was government. Townships, county governments, cities, villages, and common police courts. I promise you I'm not going to go through every box on this chart. I promise. But I'm going to go through a few. So in 1803, that was government. Do you know the first thing peeled off? School districts. In 1806, education was originally performed by townships. But in 1806, they decided to pull out school districts and give them separate political ability, their own ability to raise taxes. They were recognized as public entities. How many public school districts do we have in the state today? Trivia, come on. 614 plus 49 joint vocational school districts, 663 in total. At one time in the state, we had over 2,200 school districts. Did you know that? 2,200. They have consolidated through the middle of the 1900s down to around the 600 number. Over the last 30 years, we've had almost no additional consolidation. But 614 is not a magic number. There used to be 2,200. Let me move on. In the 1880s, veterans came back from the Civil War. I often do this as a trivia question. I say, when were Veteran Service Commissions created? People say, oh, World War II. No. World War I? No. Civil War, the 1800s. Civil War veterans coming back were out of work, were injured, needed some assistance. So all 88 counties have a Veteran Service Commission. Do you know that they are guaranteed the equivalent of $500,000 of property tax valuation in every county of the state, no matter how many veterans live there? My family has a long history of serving. I am not anti-veteran. But I do want to point out that we have a separate government body in all 88 counties with dedicated revenues, and ask any county commissioner how much fun it is to argue with the Veteran Service Commission about how much money they get. Right? You can't do it. Because if you do, you are what? You're anti-veteran. You're not about bureaucracy or reducing bureaucracy. And believe me, to get to this level of information, I've had teams of people working for over 10 months. I have binders. I know when Republicans start talking about what they keep in their binders, they get in trouble. But I have binders full of bureaucracy. And I think that's safe, because that's where we need to keep our bureaucracy, right? In binders. That's a big part of my talk today. So, Veteran Service Commissions, created in the 1800s, still have them. Government gets created and expanded every time there's a crisis, a big change in culture, or a big change in technology. Very often the existing government entities aren't equipped to deal with a specific problem. So we create a specific agency to deal with it. And that's what you see up here. I promise all of this exists. So let me move up a little bit more. Just a couple examples. We'll move up here. In 1918, local health districts were created. Somebody tell me why we have local health districts? Spanish flu. I wish I had Starbucks cards to give away or something. Spanish flu. All I have is free speech and good advice. But Spanish flu. 14 million people died on the face of the earth. So we created a new government entity because we had no method for wide-scale public inoculations and no standardized health records. It made sense in 1917. At one time, we had 150 health districts in the state of Ohio. We now have 125. They have been consolidating. They have been working on getting to a different economy of scale. I'm not here to criticize any of you. I'm just showing you what we've inherited as a generation of leadership today. So that's health districts. Post-war, we did things like look on the environment. Soil and water conservation districts got created. Social issues. County JFS and children's service boards were created. Children's services. Local planning commissions and senior centers were first created. Then we move up here, in the era of the Great Society, metropolitan planning organizations. I don't know, what year were you born?
1962.
1962. So, Jason, you were born right around the same time MPOs were. Congratulations, you're the same age as your organization. I was born in 1967, which is right about here. If you really look at how small those boxes get, the number of government agencies we have in this state is roughly equal, or is doubled, over the course of my lifetime. So we started in 1803. But those top two rows are the last 40 years. We can't keep up that pace, because what happens when there's an organization, what happens when there's cultural change? those organizations grow, right? And again, it's not a criticism. But in the 1970s, no one had an IT department. Over 6,500 independent government agencies. If you wanted to send them a letter, that's how much paper it would take. But all 6,500 of them have boxes of stationery. Think of the room that would fill. They have IT departments and HR directors and purchasing people, websites. That just running an organization in the 21st century costs a lot of money. It's hard to do. We have a very fragmented service delivery system here in the state of Ohio. 49 types of government agencies, 6,500 in total, 20,000 elected officials, 500,000 employees. That's not a criticism. It's just saying this is a huge industry and a big shift to turn if we're going to do things differently. To fund that, we have state support, federal revenues, and local revenues combined, going back to all 6,500, to fill the buckets, to fill the budgets. Local governments and schools in the state of Ohio will receive and spend over $50 billion this coming year. $50 billion. There's got to be some room for change and improvement within that. But those are local taxes, state taxes, federal funding coming through. It's a lot of money. It's not just here, guys. This isn't just an Ohio phenomenon. This is a study done by the U.S. Government Accountability Office every year, the fiscal outlook for state and local governments. They do it every year. The number you see crossed off in the chart itself, this is kind of fun. I've never had to do this before. This year, if you can't see it, it's 2010. Here's 2015. The graph shows the difference between what local revenues, or state and local revenues, are projected to bring in, and the cost curve of the expectations of inflation of providing the cost of services and paying for the employees at current levels. That gap, according to economists in Washington, never comes back together between now and the year 2060. And I know no one has a crystal ball to go all the way out that far. I get that. You guys get that. They get that. But their point is that you would have to cut budgets or raise taxes every year the equivalent of now 14.2% to bring the lines back together. I don't want to live like that. I mentioned the bales of chicken wire. We can't raise taxes and cut services and be a place where people want to live. I have 3 children and 1 on the way. My wife is due November 8th. I'll have 4 children. I'm out on the road a lot. I have 2 kids in the Akron public school system. I hate reading about teacher layoffs or police and fire cuts, right? Because my family needs those services. And I help pay for those services. But I've got 1 checking account. The 80, right? The Board of Developmental Disabilities, the school, the city, the state, the federal government, all take taxes. The Park District, levy on the ballot. Park District, go support our park. Have a subliminal. I'm not against taxes. I'm just saying I only got 1 checking account. And there are an awful lot of individual sales income and property tax levies tapping into that checking account. Changing the way we provide services is a much better solution. The 12.7 number that's crossed out, that was what they had in their report last year. The gap continues to grow across the country. So we've got to fix that. Jason said our world is changing. I like quotes too, Jason. That one was from Jack Welch. The world's changing. We have new opportunities to change the way we provide our services if we take the change that's happening outside and bring it inside. Jason mentioned Twitter. How many of you have a government agency that uses Twitter? Let me ask this. How many of you can't afford the subscription fee? Why not? It's free. It is a free method. How much do you spend on printing, postage, emails, lots of other stuff that costs you money? Twitter's free. And anyone who cares about the service you provide or what you're doing can sign up for it. I'm hoping a year that AMATS doesn't have 148 followers, but has double that or triple that. There is a difference in the way we communicate in this world, and that is one of the great ones. We've got to take advantage of anything that is free. All right, the world's changing. Let me show it to you differently. There are no dinosaurs in this room. I would tell you this. We're all on that boat together. Might be a little stinky. I'm not calling you farm animals either, okay? You know, see, that's how things get twisted around. Randy, you know what he said? It's a metaphor. Why shared services now? The new fiscal reality, I don't need to explain it to you. Changes in technology. I was in Warren. Over there, the county engineer in Trumbull County got a $500,000 local government innovation fund grant or loan to build a joint salt storage facility for 14 townships. And we met with the Warren Tribune editors of the paper over there. And they said, why now? And he said, GPS. It wasn't because he got a $500,000 interest-free loan from the state. It was GPS. It didn't make sense to do joint salt facilities if you spent more time driving your truck to get the joint salt. They now, through GPS and through synchronizing plowing routes, can optimize when people get to the joint facilities. And it's not just going to be one facility in Warren. They're integrating to meet EPA standards which salt facilities stay open and eliminate the cost for any township over there to upgrade to meet new EPA standards. That's connecting the dots. That's thinking the way Jason suggested. How was it? What? Why? What? And how? That's solving the problem the right way, right? Oh, what's the old way? EPA mandate. We've got to build a new salt garage. No. We have to meet the EPA requirement. How can we do it in the most effective way? Usually best by working with someone else. Awareness and culture. Culture's changing. I would say younger generation, no offense to anyone who doesn't feel young today, is much more embracing of this. It's in the schools. I have kids in the schools. The way they do their things is very different than the regimented ways I learned from my parents and early in my education. Demographics. Baby boomers are retiring. They're turning 65 at the rate of 8,000 a day. That's creating an opportunity for new leadership, younger employees to come in, and an opportunity to change things. I'm not saying that people who do feel young today, who are over 50, can't be the leaders of this change. Just saying, there is a huge change in who is performing work in our public institutions, the demographics themselves, and the acceptance of change by local communities is growing. Regionalism. This is the problem. When we talk about shared services and collaboration, I went to a seminar like this, sitting out at a table, not speaking, when I first came out of grad school in my 20s, about 25 years ago. And somebody talked about regionalism and everything else. What did regionalism become? Became the county saying they could do it for the cities and the townships, or the biggest school district saying they could do it for the smaller school districts, or the city saying, well, we'll do it for the villages and the townships. And collectively, all of the smaller entities said, whoa. Well, except they didn't use both hands. They used one hand and not all their fingers. And that usually gets more laughs. Was that over the line? All right. That didn't happen up here? Of course it did. So what started to happen is schools collaborated with schools, townships maybe with townships, birds of a feather started to flock together. And we lost that idea and the benefit of some of what we can do if we reach across lines. Again, cultures change, technology change. I'd say shared services will work today much better because the vision of it is it's a network. Everybody can bring something to the table. Agencies of the same size can work together. You don't need a big mothership to consolidate everything else. Or, because there are so many ways you can share services and collaborate, pick something where you take the lead on one project, but you let someone else take the lead on another project. That's how you get the trust. That's how you develop the change in culture, is through humility and sharing and finding a way to leverage an asset you have or that someone else has, and everybody brings something to the table. We did, in the budget, again, you can get a copy of the presentation to look at it. Any political subdivision in the state of Ohio can share anything they do, anything they are legally allowed to do, with another public entity. That's simple. Work with your county prosecutor, your law director, look it up, go to Beyond Boundaries or the Auditor of State, Skinny, Ohio. There are samples of the agreements being put together out there following this law. We have created as many tools as we can, and we're trying to catalog them through a couple of websites. This one is Beyond Boundaries, that goes into all of the different types of shared services examples that are out there across wide varieties of your operations. The Auditor of State also has the Skinny Ohio website to accomplish many of the same things. Again, if you get the presentation, you can get the links and go look at that yourself. When we talk about shared services, though, it's across every aspect of your operations. Every aspect. Technology, administration, again, I won't read it all. Everything that government or schools do, we have examples someplace where someone is using shared services or collaboration as part of that. Many of you are transportation professionals. All of those examples are in either technology or public works. A few in economic development, and then of course fleet management, sharing equipment, scheduling it, maintenance, all kinds of things related to your operations. And I'm pretty sure that if you have an idea somewhere in the state, someone else is working on it too, or has already implemented it. We do have the Local Government Innovation Fund. We've awarded 5 rounds of grants now. You saw those categories. We have awarded projects in every one of those categories. The leading has been technology. Most of our money has gone to technology projects. And why is that important? I'll tell you that in a second. You saw that huge box or wall. I call it the brick in the wall every time we create a new public entity. That was a Pink Floyd reference. County building departments, emergency management agencies, park districts, community college districts, county courts, townships, cities and villages, JVS districts, and school districts. You know, that huge block with all of those 49 types of government entities, almost all of them have applied or received funding out of the LGIF. So again, we changed the law so everybody can work together. We also have incentive programs that apply to any public entity in the state. You just have to take the next step and get involved in them. I do want to be clear. This is a commitment and a partnership from the state, and we are practicing what we preach. The Governor Kasich went nuts when he found out how many email systems there were in the state. He went nuts because they all come back with their own Microsoft licenses, right? And they're on their own servers, and their own people who come in on Saturday to install the hot patch when the email didn't work. You don't like it, believe me. You don't like it when the governor doesn't like something. And so our Department of Administrative Services, our state CIO is consolidated. It is in the process of consolidating all of it into one email system and driving the cost of email in the state down. We have over 5,000 servers, 30 different data centers, operating at 6 to 8% capacity. We are going through a fundamental shift in IT optimization in our state to drive that cost down and consolidate our infrastructure, our networking, our services, and our software. We're not going to lay people off. You can see there how old the applications are, how many employees we have. We are taking advantage of opportunities because of demographic changes, right? Attrition. We're all going to be facing the same issues. When we created Beyond Boundaries, our roadmap for shared services for schools and local governments, we did a survey. In our survey, of just 1,800 of the 6,500 independent government agencies out there, when we did that survey, they self-identified over 15,000 physical servers. When you extrapolate that out to the people who weren't covered, very easily gets to 20 to 25,000 servers, which again, then also have network connections. I talked to one county down in southeast Ohio that had 6 different internet providers running cable into the courthouse. It happens, right? Because the recorder got their internet contract, the commissioners did, the prosecutor did, 6 different internet providers. They consolidated it into one fiber pipe, split it, and are saving a ton of money. And then it's a matter of what services you can run through that. So, my big suggestion is be aggressive, connect the dots, play some budget bingo. Look across all of your potential partners and determine who is interested in or would be a worthy person to share services with. I spoke to a group of IT professionals a couple weeks ago, 400, 500 people down in Columbus, and I was challenged actually by the Portage County CIO, Brian Cowley. He said, Randy, usually when you speak to us, you say something that offends us. He said, no one really seems that uncomfortable this year. What can you say to really challenge us? And I thought a bit about it for a moment, and I said, 2 things. First, find something you do well and give it away for free. Find somebody else who needs it, whether it's computers, right? You've got extra IT capacity, you have some staff with a great experience or expertise, you have extra space in your facility, whatever it is, piece of equipment you just bought, take something you have and give it away for free. Don't look for how you can make money. The money will come later, right? You might get contracts, shared service agreements that help create some revenue, but give something away for free. And second, if you've got something you need to buy, before you budget for it and buy it, find out if somebody else has it and convince your leadership that you're going to use what somebody else has. You do those 2 things, each of you, in this next year, and we will start to change the culture of how services are provided in the state of Ohio. Everybody can remember that without taking a note, right? It's exciting, though. And practicing what we preach, I'm a shared service. I'm the State Controlling Board President, and I'm the Budget Office Policy Advisor. Then I've got these duties I do for the Governor's Office. I don't say that to brag, but in the last administration, that was 2 boxes on the org chart. It was combined into 1. It makes me a very busy person. You guys are going to hear more about Controlling Board in the coming days. It makes me a very busy person. But I love the challenge. I love the opportunity. You have plenty of people who are 25, 30, 35, 40 years of age who want more challenge and would love a raise. When they asked me to do both jobs, I did not get both salaries. But I was smart enough to ask which job pays more. And even Tim Keene, our stingy budget director, said, well, I got to give you that. And I got to hire the 2 salaries. That's fair, right? But they saved the whole salary. You've got other opportunities for that. If you have a great person and you do a shared service contract with someone else and share that staff person, that is how we are getting raises for fiscal officers. That's how we're getting raises for IT people. It's by sharing the budget and increasing their utilization. I think that's just a great way to live. I am very, very proud to be from Summit County, Ohio. We We are a hotbed of being aggressive, connecting the dots, and being great shared service examples for the rest of the state. I love going to Cincinnati or Southeast Ohio or Toledo, and they go, well, we'd really like to do this. And I go, oh, well, back at home we're doing it. You're going to hear from this panel here in a few moments about very exciting things happening here. I will tell you this. At the end of this, if you get this electronically, you can tweet to me or email me. If you have an example similar to these, I promise you, send it to me, we'll format it, and you will be a hero around the state. I will put it in my slide and swap one of these guys out if you can beat them. Sorry, Tom. But I am looking for the community that can top City of Talmadge in what they're doing through shared services and collaboration and through regional economic growth. I'm always looking for somebody to one-up somebody I'm already touting. If you think you can, bring it. I'll take it. Be creative. So I think I have a couple minutes to close. 10:52. I've got more time than I thought. You guys get the full deal. 2 stories I'm going to tell you. The Jobbabago. It's actually, as you see, called the Opportunity Job Network. What you can't read is this says Delaware, Knox, Marion, Morrow. 4 counties northwest of Franklin County, northwest of Columbus. The 4 county JFS departments, Jobs and Family Services, if you don't know the alphabet soup, when I was growing up, that was called the what? Welfare Department, right? Bureaucracy, bureaucrats, right? Well, the leadership of those 4 organizations, when gas prices hit $4 a gallon, right, RVs were sitting on lots. Nobody was buying things like this. They went to the local RV dealer who gave them an RV dirt cheap, just for cash flow, right? They took their clients and remodeled an existing RV to create an office in the back. Up here in the front are tables with a 6-hub wireless Wi-Fi to put laptops in it. Rather than having people come down and face the stigma or just the hassle of coming downtown to fill out something if they're unemployed or looking for work, they take this to them. The Jobbabago goes out to shopping malls. It goes to the veterans, to the VFW. No kidding. It goes to a manufacturing company. Manufacturers came to them and said, look, we have a hard time hiring people because they have images of people chained to machines. You could eat off of our floors. 21st century manufacturing is a very different process. So they said, would you bring the Jobbabago out to us so that people could tour our factory and see what it is as a place to work and then apply for the job on the Jobbabago? So that's what people do. You can apply for jobs. The employer usually sits in the back and can do interviews. So the Jobs and Family Service staff pre-screens them up front, and then they do the interview in the back. In the first 6 months this was in operation, 1,500 people walked on the Jobbabago, 350 walked off with a job. In a bad economy, this was launched last May. In a bad economy. But it's changing lives. That manufacturer said, I talked to the HR director, we did a big event down in Knox County, and I was honored to be a part of it. We did this big event, and it was 2 stories while we were there that just shocked me. It was the manufacturer who told me a story about trying to get people to get their jobs. But they said a woman walked on the Jobbabago to apply for a job, and everything was online. If you've ever bought anything through Amazon, you ever done an online transaction, you know you get those little red boxes of death, right? She got to the end of the application, and you had to put in an email address. This woman applying for work didn't have an email address. But wireless Wi-Fi, they created a Gmail account for her. She put in the new Gmail account, interviewed with the employer in the back, got the job. She walked off with the job and an email account. She was now a 21st century citizen with the rest of us. That's changing lives. That's the unintended benefits and impacts of when you make these kind of changes. But talking to the employer, they said, you know, it's just me and the owner. the HR director said, just me and the owner. It would have taken us weeks. They interviewed 132 people in a day because the 6 bureaucrats, instead of working in an office behind the scenes someplace, were out here screening people with that company. This effort has gotten recognized by veterans nationally for their efforts and ability to get veterans jobs because they bring the veterans together with the employers looking for the skills veterans bring. If all 88 counties had this, it would be job a bungle, right? Because it would spend most of its time parked behind some building downtown somewhere. But when 4 counties do it, it gets used 6 days a week. It moves around. Last example. I'm just filibustering, so I don't have to answer any questions. We can go right into the panel. Play. Play and language for autistic youngsters. If you look at this picture, this is the director of the program, and then these are some of the kids getting the services. We all know that autism is an increasing diagnosis throughout our society. It costs to give in school or at the Board of Developmental Disabilities in classroom training and assistance for autistic youth about $40,000 a kid. 5 counties in rural western Ohio instead adopted a new process called Play that I have to admit originated in that state up north. But hey, if we can take something good from there, we might as well. And then we'll beat them in November. But they adopted this new process, but recognized hiring a coordinator for one of their counties where they might only have 5 or 6 cases of autism isn't very cost effective. So 5 counties got together, hired the woman at the bottom, Colleen Zunk, and she has a GPS and gets mileage reimbursements and travels all 5 counties providing assistance to over 40 families who have kids with autism in their home. By doing it in their home, she gets to see what their challenges are, how engaged the parents are. Do you know what her cost per family is? $4,000. 1/10 the cost of the old way of doing it. I love to save money. I'm a good fiscal conservative. But what's giving me goosebumps right now is what you don't see is in the audience there, the father of one of the children is a guy in a t-shirt that when I was growing up we called a wife beater. You know, like the muscle shirt. He came to this event we had in a park, and with a tear in his eye, he said, "Mr. Cole, thank you for the state support for this program. This is a very important thing. Up until a week ago, my son didn't really look me in the eye. But last week, he said, 'I love you, Dad,' for the first time. You guys aren't just saving money. You're changing lives." So I will just say, we can spend every 2 years fighting about budgets, putting plastic signs up to raise levies, asking for more subsidies, making cuts, laying people off, or we can change fundamentally the way we do things and change people's lives and change our state. None of you, myself included, when I went to school, when I went to grad school, talked about buying and selling services. I mean, that's what the people do over in the business school. This is the president of Columbus State Community College, though. And I think it embodies, I think it's where I got that idea that each of you should give something away for free and find out something else you need and have someone else provide it for you. It's a great quote, though. It's about changing culture. It's about analyzing what we do, and it's not just forms and paper and budgets. It's analyzing what we do and how we do it, and is there a better way and someone we can do it with. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free to get in touch. My consulting advice costs as much as my speeches. The taxpayers are already paying for it. If I have something I can do to help, I promise you I'll try to help. And follow me on Twitter. They're not exciting. They're kind of like my presentations. except heaven, thank heavens it's 140 characters or less. But if we have a change in the law, a new program, a grant application, a new source of funding, or a great example somewhere around the state of a neat shared service, I tweet it. Something every day. Again, it's free. It's a great way to exchange some of that information. Jason, tell me, what am I doing next? Are we bringing a panel up? Am I going to take a question? Well, we should let them clap first.